this microphone, and then we want you to be an active participant in this conversation too. So after I do some conversation with Gwen, I'll open it up for any questions, and then Gwen, if you want to take questions,
you might do that part.
You might be just so spent by the time it's over that you're we're happy with the content.
Okay.
I've been so excited to talk to Gwen about this book. Take a deep breath, Gwen. You're amongst friends.
I know.
I will tell you, Gwen, before I get started, that as we get going, if there's a question you're like, no, I'm going to pass on that one, you're totally welcome to do that. So if you're like, either I don't have content
I will.
that, yeah, I feel is worth sharing or whatever, we'll just pass on it. But it was, I think, a gift to many of us in Soul Forum, and I'm sure to your friends and all the people that are in your circles, and maybe even to anybody who picks up this book. This kind of way in which I think Gwen has weaved together the unfolding of your everyday life into sort of all the kind of the insightful moments that percolate within that experience, you know, that are sometimes extraordinary experiences, sometimes kind of outside the normal senses, and you pick up on those and you're able to integrate them in. So just to get started, one of the basic questions I wanted to talk to you about a little bit was, as you took the combination of your life story and then all these like grace-filled moments of insight or awareness that sort of came to you, and you fold them together and you then write them down in this book that now holds them all, was there something that changed for you about your relationship to all that, just in the writing of the, you know, putting it all together, just in the book itself? So just an, you know, quick reflection on sort of the insights you gained just compiling your life story in such a way. What did that do for you?
Well, first of all, I didn't write this to be a story that would be a book.
Right.
I wrote it from a place of surrender, from a place of recognizing my arrogance and having what I call a spiritual ego after all the work I had done. And I was in a place of needing to turn that over once again to something greater than myself. And to do that, to regain sanity, so to speak, I had to reflect on how grace, spirit, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, true nature, had unfolded in my life and what it had given me. And then I could remind myself, I'm not in charge. You know, I think I'm in charge. And even with the choices I make just for this being right here, I don't know how much of being in charge I am.
Yeah,
I really
even
don't.
your conscious decision making, you're not even sure. Yeah.
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 To let it all
it sounds
go.
like there sounds like there's a little bit of like a humbling, almost like a humbleness that is a part of, you know, as you take your story and hold it in a particular way and see it in a particular way, that it allows you a sense of a new kind of relationship with it that puts you in a more of a humble position in some sense. That's what I'm hearing you say a little bit.
Yeah, to live and let live.
Yeah, yeah.
To let go and let God or Great Spirit, you know, to surrender every moment. I mean, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
to stay that course.
Yeah.
Staying the course is the tough part.
Yeah, I noticed that in your book, how tricky it is for you to stay the course sometimes. Well, I wanted to start with that because I think for all of us, you know, we all have this amazing story that we're living right now, and we all have all these like for Gwen, these almost like probably magical little moments along the way that kind of inform that or give that shape, and also traumatic moments along the way that form that and give that shape. And clearly you've had a combination of both. That's what's been on your plate for a lifetime. And somehow just paying attention to it or holding your own story or articulating your story in a meaningful way, I do think it gives you like a deeper insight into how your spirit works or how your search for soul is unfolding. And clearly I think that happened in this book for you, which is awesome. Let me talk a little bit about, you have experiences that not all of us have. And to be honest with you, when I read it, I'm like, I don't have any of these kinds of experiences like you get in the book that I can think of. I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later, about how maybe I'm just not noticing. But I would call your almost like extrasensory, you know, they're beyond what are typical sensory moments. They're beyond what I would say are sort of the dream world that we often engage in. You almost have like very visceral experiences that have some effect on the way in which you see your life and shape your life. But also you talk in the book like there's these spaces in between them. And I guess one of my questions to you is like, how do you hold sort of extraordinary or magical moments and allow them to let their meaning percolate in the in-between times of your life? How do you do that?
I don't think there's a how-to course.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like following guidance of some kind, right? Sometimes the guidance is very ego-driven or super ego-driven, right? And I mean, that first what I call the greatest experience of love and the recognition that all is going to be, all is okay. Right? Divine love creates all. And knowing that it's all okay is kind of a gift. It was a gift to me.
Yeah.
But I don't try to recreate those experiences. I don't try to recreate whatever's offered in the moment.
Yeah.
It's all in the moment.
Well, I did notice that. And throughout the book, it's like you don't anticipate. I wondered about that. Is there a, well, two questions. One, they tend to come out of nowhere, it feels like. So it's not as if you're
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, like preparing for it to arrive, like a birth mother waiting to have this experience, but they just sort of show up. And then, but you also talk, especially with some of the work you did around that, the heart.
Diamond heart?
Yeah, diamond heart, that you also found a way to kind of be really present in the moment. Does that presence in the moment accelerate those experiences, or are those graceful moments unrelated to that?
I think they can bring them on, for sure, because when I talked about staying the course, or when I knew I needed a daily practice, then following the guidance to enroll or engage in that, and then allowing that to unfold, because that teaching is really about living in the moment and what your experience is. Even though it may have a definition of, well, this happened or that, or this, it uses different modalities, going into the body and really being aware of what's unfolding now is the process of inquiry. And the process of discovery. So you never know what's going to show up, right? So gratefully, certain beautiful things happen. And also some of the beastie, tragic, grumbly things start to move, and the structures of the ego that you've developed to survive in the world start to dissipate. And
I love that. That's a beautiful way of explaining. Do you notice that the character of the kind of extraordinary experiences differ from the ones that sort of emerge out of whether it be a traumatic situation or a stress-filled situation versus a being present situation? Does the way in which that works for you shift a little bit? You know what I'm saying? So, because you've had some that you've been like in a tense place, and then you have this really powerful experience. Is that different than the ones that emerge?
Well, there's something about being aware, you know? I mean, I could witness myself in those difficult places, right? And you're able to watch yourself, welcome, and you're able to see that unfolding happening, even though you may not make the best decision in that moment. You just know this is also true. Right? And then getting to the point of okay, this isn't like a spiritual life and a ego life or a life,
Right.
this human life. They're the same. There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's all spiritual, if you will. It's all connected. There's no separation.
Yeah. I think you bring up a great point, which leads to this other question, and that is, you know, it's not like those experiences trump the reality you're living. The reality is folded into those experiences, and sometimes it's a bit sloppy. And I notice sometimes it feels like you have these great experiences, but applying them sometimes to life choices seems like it's tricky for you. And for all of us, what is that?
Well, it has been.
You know what I mean? You're like...
I'm hoping not to get tricked too much anymore.
Yeah, what do you think that is about?
That trickster energy?
Yeah, maybe that's trickster energy. Is it just that the... I mean, in some ways it feels like you live vivaciously, right? So you have passions and interests and focus, so you've got a real energy there, and then you've got a real energy for how you're engaging in this other stuff. Is it that they're not, it feels like they're sometimes a tug and pull with each other rather than a seamlessly woven together experience? So...
I don't know, Dan.
Yeah.
Seamlessly woven together. I think they are at some level. It's just maybe not being aware of that in the moment. I don't know.
I
there's
struggle
so many
with that.
walks we walk, right,
Yeah.
with each other that you just kind of go, oh, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
Oh, here's that pattern again, which is what took me into this, noticing another arising of concern and a pattern, and
Well, that's fascinating. So partly this is, even the writing of the book and the spiritual journey you've been on is helping you both recognize those patterns and then to sort of help you inform a way to engage them that might create a different trajectory for yourself.
Or you just might choose the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
So is there a red flag? Is there not a red flag?
Yeah.
You know, am I going to choose this anyway?
Yeah.
You know, and that, you know, and honor that that's the direction we're moving, you know, and so embrace it.
Yeah. I do love that the way in which you frame that kind of gives everybody kind of a reason to say, sometimes I feel like, you know, you try to make a life by making the right decisions, and yet, you know, you alluded to this earlier, I'm making decisions. Are they really the right ones? Are they really connected with all the work that I'm doing spiritually? I hope so, but I couldn't say that confidently.
It's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah. I can tell. Yeah, it is definitely a mystery.
It's kind of the fun part of this journey, right? There's still a mystery unfolding, and you're just gonna be a part of it. And even though you think you know, you don't really know.
Yeah. I think so. One of the things that I noticed about, I think some of the history of your life has been difficult and challenging, and sometimes when I run into people who have certain either patterns of behavior or things in their life that they would like to kind of escape from or get out from underneath from, they pick religious journeys that are very stable. Right? Fundamentalism is a classic response sometimes to a chaotic life, and so, you know, that this does not change even though my life is in chaos a little bit. Or biblical literalism, where this is the truth, and then you can hold on to it. It's like a stabilizing force oftentimes. You didn't seem to take that path. You're still as adventuresome in your spiritual journeys as you are in your regular life.
I just love it all.
Which seems like, I think there's a difference between the two. Do you see some value in the path that you've taken versus sort of, something stable on the other side of this coin?
I think everyone has to follow their own path.
Yeah.
It's all, grist for the mill for each individual. And that's another thing, it's like I can't tell someone what to do. I can't advise them to do this or not do that. Unless they ask me, boy, I will. But I try not to go there.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do.
Yeah, I guess I would
just want to express our love in other ways.
Yeah. I guess I want to honor that you, in some ways, as adventuresome as you've been in recreating your life, that, you know, that we can see and know about your story, and how creative and exploratory you've been in kind of exploring your spiritual side, that running those two parallel tracks is, can be challenging and exciting at the same time, right? There's a lot that you're navigating. It's like your story is unfolding and morphing and changing probably more rapidly than some people are trying to stabilize. That's what I sense in this. Like, there's a kind of a rapid reminder of how quickly one life can be modified over and over again, which...
Is that what you see?
Yeah.
We'll see. I might not see it that way, but...
Maybe not, yeah. I mean, didn't it feel like you were constantly, it felt like you were recreating yourself a lot in the book, and maybe because it's in one little book and not in the whole lifetime that it feels that way for the reader?
Yeah, and I tried not to go into, you know, storytelling of dramas and traumas in my life.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we all have them. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the grist for the mill of the unfolding of, you know, you're going to do your best to metabolize it in some way, right?
Yeah.
For some, it might be that straight, narrow path of religion, or others. You know, I've just never been able to stay landed in one way. I just find it all fascinating and wonderful. And I mean, that's why I put my paintings in.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's process painting. It's not thinking about painting.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, I'm going to do this now. It's like, well, what's here now?
Yeah.
Oh, that color, boom. But, you know, and this thing unfolds. Isn't this how creation happens? I don't know. Something like that.
No, it's a beautiful insight. In fact, I was going to ask you, because those of you who got the book, there's paintings folded through the book, which is fantastic, I think. So if we filled this room with all your paintings, and we sat immersed in the process paintings that you've done, what kind of story would it tell that's different than the book, you think, from a painting perspective?
I don't know if it'd tell anything different. The first one, probably 25 years ago maybe, was the first one, somewhere in there, is very ancient looking in the sense that it has, you know, like a shield around the heart and a cross and a protection, and my shoulders are red, and there's this, you know, peeking out kind of, I mean, it's just like, you know, that. It's stressed, it's compact, it's contracted, it's not opened up, it's fearful. To move from that through, you know, some of the other paintings, or into the sexual, or into the, you know, just the peaceful, inward, meditative, pregnant, new life feeling, or, you know, it's just, it's all available.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I love how you painted the arc of the whole, of kind of where it originated. I think your first one's in there, isn't it? Isn't the first one in the book? Because I remember that.
It's in the book, yes.
Yeah, because that one, did feel different, like you describe it. Yeah, you also have a lot of color. Color is huge for you, I've noticed. And like even in the visions you've had, there's always a description of the color, whether it be a yellow or gold or white or whatever how have colors played into that? That's like an energy for you, I think, you tap into.
I don't know how they play into it per se. I mean, I tend, you know, this is a lot color for me to wear. I mean, I wear black a lot, or I kind of hide in my clothes a lot.
Oh.
I do. I want to, but when I write or I paint, or it's different. So that's why I was nervous. For me to be nervous coming here to speak.
Yeah.
There was a time in my life where there was no way this would happen, right? It's taken a journey even of that unfolding to be able to speak in front of people, to be able to stand my ground, to not laugh and giggle and, oh, am I okay? Or, you know, it's like, you know, I want you to like me. Well, you know, right, today I don't care so much. It's like, but at the same time, I got nervous this morning. You know?
Absolutely.
And it wasn't like 3 weeks ago. It was this morning, so that's good. That's progress, not perfection, you know, and we're moving in that direction. So stay with the day and
No, that's awesome.
let go.
Well, yeah, and I would expect somebody who's kind of articulated this in both writing and painting would be comfortable sharing, but that's interesting that that is a hurdle you've been working on. And,
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and if it's any consolation, I'm nervous for every time, so that's pretty normal too. So
Yeah, and every sickness I've had in not every, but it seems to happen like in my throat. Like, you know, that when I've had bronchitis or flu, or inability to speak.
Oh,
right?
that's amazing.
It's real interesting how the body will teach you if you really check in.
Yeah.
Or I've had knee replacements. I mean, I had to do this. I don't think I did it, but I remember having a chiropractic treatment like when I was really young. Young meaning my son was little, and feeling my legs connected to my feet. I used to never show my feet.
That's crazy.
I didn't feel my legs.
We've had other talks with people who have that same kind of like a disembodied relationship to their own physical self at some level. Yeah. I don't know what that's about. It's interesting. Let's see. This is a good question, I think, too. It's how are we doing on time? I want to make sure everybody's got a chance to ask you a few questions, or at least get into some discussion of what they've noticed in this conversation. But I did notice there are some times in certain relationships that you've had along the way that you kind of repress your spiritual side. And for those of us there's all sorts of reasons to repress sort of that spiritual aspect of who you are, right? Your life is busy, you got work, you got relationships. There's plenty of ways to do it. But there are moments when you've had to kind of push it aside and you're in the relationship and you repress that side of yourself. Is there any wisdom you have from doing that you can share about, what does that do when you...
Well, I don't think I've ever given up on that side of myself.
Say more about that.
Repress is
that too strong a word?
Well, I don't know. I never felt... in many of my relationships, I never felt received in terms of my spiritual understanding or my experiences.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, you don't talk about that.
Yeah.
You don't go there.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in the last relationship that I start to get into in this book, I finally felt met in that place.
You felt heard, so someone could hear that part of you fully.
Someone could be present with me in that part and also had a spiritual base.
Yeah.
Which was very necessary for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was also very necessary to take that 3-year window of no one.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That break. Mm-hmm. And then really begin to look at what do I want, if I want, I'm okay by myself.
Right.
I really don't need this. Mm-hmm. But it'd be nice. So.
Well, I love the way you could just feel your emotions shift when you talk about someone who can hear you, and I think that's one of the things about Soul Forum is, this commitment literally to just honor and hear people's stories or their spiritual reflections in a way that they don't feel threatened, just gives you space to be more of who you are, in some beautiful way. That's certainly something that's happened for you.
That's the next book, Dan.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, see, I get the little emotion. My significant other's been past like almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, okay, now I can write that part.
Ah.
Now I can.
Yeah, I wondered, because that's where the book ended, as he was entering into that space.
And I don't know, I resisted a bit.
Yeah.
And April's helped me. She said, just, and I love this saying, start anywhere, just do it, And so when things come out, it's like, maybe I should just not try to be so fluid. It'll all edit itself at some point and just, okay, this part, okay, this part, okay, this part, and let it be.
That's a great piece of wisdom. Just start anywhere. That's just do that. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Let me shift to the final 2 questions here. So that wasn't so bad so far, huh?
No, but there's too much time left.
All right, let me drag out a couple more. Let's see, I did art. Well, one of the quotes I loved, you've already made reference to it, that you learned along the way, was being where you are and how powerful that experience is. And that's partly what we try to do when we gather here is, you know, really show up for yourself and each other. And it sounds like that was a real gift that you got along the way. You also kind of journeyed into that space with the loss of your parents too. That do you feel comfortable sharing like both your mom and your dad, you took a different journey on through their kind
very
of
different, yeah.
You know, going to the
Different people.
Yeah. Was there some kind of insight that obviously you got very close to that experience for both of them? Any reflections on that kind of passing over that you want to share or feel comfortable
What's
sharing?
fascinating is when they come to you after the fact.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, but you know, I will say, and a few people here have heard it, how much when my mother was passing, how much joy filled the room. She was free.
Yeah. You could definitely feel that in your writing.
Yeah. I mean, 10 years of struggle, really. I don't know what she was going through. With Alzheimer's, you don't know.
Yeah.
How much do they really connect, or, you know, where are they? What are they thinking? Are they really, you know, people think, oh, they don't know me. Well, come on now. I could be with her and I knew she knew me.
Yeah.
You know, in different ways.
Right.
But yeah, when she left her body, oh my God, it's just pure yellowish white light in the room, and joy was what I felt, just pure joy. So yeah, the after experience that I write about, like wondering, you know, after I couldn't feel her anymore, like, what's happening, Mom? Where are you? You know, and having her come in a dream that was so lucid and so present, and just show up like every day, I'm here, you know, and just sit down and visit with us, and like it was a common experience. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And my father as well. Yeah.
Well, I noticed you've had, like, when you were talking about that, you've had moments when, you remember how you were talking about you're disembodied sometimes, or you've experienced being disembodied, but there's moments in you reach some sort of mental state where you're sort of out of body, but then you manifest in a different, you actually manifest as body, right? Eagle, or you have this real sense of, there was a couple of different spirit animals, so to speak, in here that you've sort of manifested as. Why do you think that has been such a powerful experience for you?
Well, I started on that, you know, a Native American path too, and so there's lots of different things that can go on in ceremony. But this was just waking up one morning, I was in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it's funny, when I have these experiences, I'm not afraid. You know, there's no fear. It's just a lot of curiosity. What's going on here? What is happening?
Yeah.
I just bumped this.
You're fine.
So I'm laying there, and I'm kind of coming into a waking state, and there's all these feathers, and I feel, you know, this feeling and this awareness that I'm not who I think I am. Isn't that great? We aren't who we think we are. Like I've just flown in from somewhere.
Yeah.
And now I'm forming as this body.
Yeah.
Woo.
No, it kind of builds. We are so, I don't want to say naive, but I would say that would be how I would classify. I think I'm manifesting in this physical body. This is me, right? And when I read those stories, I'm like, that's another way to think about, I mean, is this really how I'm manifesting, or am I manifesting in other ways that I'm just not in tune with? I thought it was really quite intriguing, new layer of thinking that I've just never experienced, that I've never encountered myself. But
have you encountered those lucid dreams, or?
Well, right. Well, that's one of the questions I have in here. For many of us, I don't know about all you, but I don't have a lot of like what you have in the book that are very, like I can if I'm having them, I'm not noticing them as strongly as you are, right? So is there a way to be more present to where you're kind of capturing those little magical moments that happen, whether they be in a dream state or a coming out of dream state or a waking state, where you're like, that's a moment I want to cherish because I'm noticing it differently. It's got some wisdom in there. How do you?
You can't hold on.
Yeah, you can't?
No.
So you either
can't hold on.
You either engage them or they fade away.
You can be present as much as possible with whatever's happening, but you can't hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, holding on just makes it crumble.
Interesting.
Or contracts things.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to think if there's anybody, no, nobody was in here. So I had this experience once where we lived on the land for a week, and every morning when we woke up, it was a kind of a silent, very meditative thing. And in the morning when we woke up, we had to get in a big dream circle. You've probably experienced these. And everybody would share what happened in their dream world the night before, and then what did they get out of that dream world. And going around the room, I was just blown away by how powerful people's dreams can be to inform their life. And I dream and I go, oh, that was wild, but I'm not really processing at a level like they carry some wisdom for me. You've spent enough time experiencing these sort of events that they feel like they bring you something, wisdom, insight, reflection, perspective. But it's not coming from your conscious mind, it's coming from a different place, a grace. That's what I think you call these grace moments, right?
Grace, yeah. And that's a maybe,
Is it?
Well, it's a maybe that, I don't know what integration happens, to be honest. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't try to figure it out. I haven't done dream work.
Yeah.
I've had a few wonderful experiences, but it's not like I'm aware of my dreams all the time. Mm-hmm. That's not how it is.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, if I did the dream work, what would happen?
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting...
I mean, I have had an experience where I'm able to change the dream a little bit in the dream so that I'm not falling so hard or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also, when I dream, some dreams are way powerful, right? You can't forget them.
Right.
And others are just gone. Something happened. Yeah. Maybe I learned something. I don't know. Maybe it's informing me. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I don't, or maybe it woke me up because I needed to get up to go to the bathroom. Simple.
There's that
physical thing.
That's great. I think what your book does just reminds all of us, and reminded me, to try to pay attention to those little moments, those, like the stuff we don't always tend to, just to see if there's some voice partnering with you in your journey that you're not listening to as fully. I think that's a beautiful thing that your book does. It tries to name those or articulate them in a beautiful way that kind of encourages all of us to do a little bit more work in that. So this is the final question. 9:06, you're doing pretty good. And then we'll shut up. Is Bruce here? And then we can shut off the feed and just have an open conversation. But there is because I love biblical scholars, there is a biblical scholar who is trying to come up with a different word for God, because God is so loaded with baggage that he was struggling to find another word to describe the nature of God. And he came up with this term, the more.
The more.
The more. So it's very, I kind of like it because it's very open, right? Doesn't have a lot of baggage connected to it. As you think about all that you've experienced, if you had to language what the heck's going on, what could you find some words to describe that, or what would be your language to articulate that which you're held in, or the more?
That's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finding the right language. Everybody takes in a certain view when you give language to something. Some people call God good, orderly direction, right?
But how about you?
True nature, or great spirit, or great mystery.
Yeah.
Or universe. or the absolute, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I know it's diverse, but
it's the unfolding now. It's happening.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
It's. I mean, my point of view is that God is ever present, and that we are all part of that, every bit.
Yeah.
In Native American terms, they would say "Omitakuiase." They would say all my relations. All my relations doesn't mean just you and me, a human being. It means the standing ones here, or the fishes in the sea, and the waters, and the mountains, and the universe, and the star nation, and so on. All my relations.
Yeah. That's lovely.
We're all in this together. Who knows what's informing what?
Yeah.
Right? And then we choose where we want to spend our time and energy because, well, if I'm over here, I don't feel so good. You know, or maybe I feel disconnected, or my spine starts to go, whoa, I can't take this. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Too much violence or too much whatever. So how do you navigate? Some people protest. I have done so, but it's not my way. My way is inner. My way is prayer. My way is meditation. My way is one-on-one. My way is small groups.
That's awesome. Well, Gwen, thanks. I think that's lovely. I think that's a nice place to pause. How about a little round of loving applause for you, Gwen, for going through my 4 pages of questions.
Thanks for being here, too.
Yeah, no, it means a lot. And it means a lot to us, and I think it's beautiful that you're able to, you know, hear your story floating around in this space and be held by all these people here. So, Bruce, you want to cut off the feed, and then we'll see you all next week. We're going to talk about some of the themes that came up in this conversation next week. So, like from your perspective, any of these themes trigger something for you, and we'll do that next week. And then the following week, we are going to be at the Wine and Tapas Speaker Series with a scholar from, I think he's at the GTU, in addition to some other places, on kind of the changing face of religion in our time. So he's a religious scholar and a cultural scholar. So he'll be coming to talk about that, and I'll have some handouts on that.
That's at a later time.
That's at a later time. Yeah, it's going to be, so it's a bottle of wine and some food to share, 4:30 to 6, a lecture and a Q&A. And then we'll use some of his content for a couple of weeks and talk. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. And I do have some flyers on that too. All right, so we're done with these, Bruce?